8 years after its original release, Slender the Arrival finally hits mobile, which was something that I didn't have on my 2021 bingo card sheet. Considering that mobile versions of Slender the 8 Pages are plentiful, it's odd that it took this long for this game to have a mobile port. Maybe Blue Isle Studios was waiting for mobile gaming to reach a level where the game could work with no issues. I mean, games like Fortnite, Genshin Impact, and even Nintendo and Apple Arcade have proven that mobile gaming could be on par with handheld consoles. Other than that, there's literally no reason for this port to come out. There's no movie or boost in relevance to justify a port in 2021, or maybe it was meant to bank on nostalgia during the spookiest time of the year. At some point I'll cover the full game and how it compares to the original version of the game, but right now I want to articulate some initial impressions considering the way it's being sold. While the game is free, the game only allows you access to the first level, and once you complete it, you need to fork over $5 to play the full game, which is surprising for two reasons. 1. Usually games that follow this structure cost $10, i.e. Super Mario Run, so for it to be $5 less is more comfortable, but it's still an odd practice, and the first level is probably the least enticing level in the game. But before I talk about the game and how it fares as a port, I want to elaborate on the second point. The price of a free game with a hidden paywall is the modern version of downloading a demo, but instead of the demo acting as an exclusive look at a game that may or may not change due to X, Y, and Z, it's just the actual first level, and what you see is what you're getting. The problem is that the first level is kind of boring and kind of tone deaf from a marketing perspective. Keep in mind that the first level, acting as a demo, was done on the Xbox 360 and PS3 port in 2014, and it did its job a bit better because it allowed non-PC players to get a taste of what they were missing. Although even back then I was bothered that the 8 pages segment wasn't a demo, but that's besides the point. In 2021, PC gaming is pretty normalized, and this port is more of a novelty rather than something people were hungry for. So if you're trying to convince people to get a game that came out in 2013 again, or to bait them with nostalgia, why would you make this the free level? The first level is not horrible per se, but the scares feel artificial despite the fact that you're wandering around empty spaces for most of it. I mean, why would you plop down $5 when the demo was walking in a forest to a spooky house, having an uneventful experience in that house, walking to another forest, and then going to another spooky house, a jump scare, and more walking, with the game ending with buy the rest for $5. Sure, you see Slenderman a couple times, but he's easily avoidable and you can actually complete the entire level without seeing him once, which makes this level a bad one to start with. But how does it fare as a port? This port is not bad, but it feels pretty lackluster from its graphics and how it controls. Of course, compromises have to be made in order to fit the game on your phone and for it to work without any issues, but this port feels like it took more steps back than steps forward. Sure, it's still Slender the Arrival, but it looks like a port you see on the 3DS or PS Vita. There's a lack of shading, backgrounds are simplified, and even the shading based the game as much as the shadows did in the original game. Models look pixelated when interacting with shadows, I was somehow able to see the inside of a character's face but from a terrifying perspective, and the water is this light blue when the environment is just fog and trees. This juxtaposes the actual skies and forest, which is pretty obvious from what's on the screen. In order to interact with the environment, you tap on the screen, but there's a high possibility that just walking will interact with things, which is terrifying. Doors will either function normally or freeze in place if a single pixel of yours touches it. It's genuinely underwhelming graphically, and while certain things look nice, it just feels like a huge downgrade rather than something comparable to the real thing. It's a mobile game, so walking, running, looking around, and using the flashlight is all done with a touchscreen. The button placements are placed apart from one end of the screen to the other, which feels uncomfortable. While I use it over time, I wish that the game allowed you to adjust where the buttons were placed. I never liked using the touchscreen to both look and run, and while the sensitivity can be changed, it just felt like a chore. This is an issue now, but I worry about the level Into the Abyss where you're running around and trying to avoid Slenderman and your sister in a claustrophobic environment. This game makes me physically sick enough already. I'd probably need an ambulance after playing that level. Review coming at some point. I wish the head bopping, which is the main cause of me being sick, was removed, and there's no option to do so, which makes the game way more painful than it has to be, more so on mobile. The weirdest thing about this port is that on the PC console version, the title crawl is presented in a normal aspect ratio, but on mobile, it's presented in a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is weird. Despite needing to pay for the full game, you can still access the level select screen, and it seems that all 9 levels are here, but there's a lack of new content. Once again, this port came out 8 years after the original on a device that has a plethora of mobile Slenderman games. Why not add a new level to make this port stand out and entice all the new players to play the game other than nostalgia? But that's all I really have to say about this port so far, and that being said, I don't hate this port. I'm pretty ambivalent about the main game. I find it tedious and boring at times, on top of physically making me sick. but the game has really cool and atmospheric levels like the 8 pages, Into the Abyss, and like half a flashback. And of course, this game hits from a nostalgic perspective. When the mobile port was announced the other week, I was genuinely excited, and considering that this port was coming out a significant amount of time after the original, I expected a polished port with something to bring me back other than nostalgia. Blue Isle Studios struck gold with the 2013 classic, and with the version number being slapped on the upper right of the title screen, this port has potential to be a staple in horror games on the go. Could this test the waters for a sequel or future DLC? Hopefully. But so far, this port gets a 2.9 out of 5. I'll make a full review at some point, but so far this port is pretty disappointing. But despite that, it is filled with potential. Will it deliver? Only time will tell. Thank you all for watching. I'd like to thank my patrons, Leocrit, Hachi, and Retroway for supporting the channel, and for $1 a month your name can show up right here. Love you guys and shamalamamoomoo.